Welcome to Grit and Grace, the place where grit shapes you, grace carries you, and friends walk beside you through it all. I'm Pam Rader, and along with my co-hosts Erin Payne and Brian Thiessen, we're here to laugh, cry, and tell the truth about what it means to be fully human. Think of us as your old friends. We share real stories, a little cowboy logic, and transformational tools. Because here's the thing, life's gonna kick your ass sometimes, but it'll also invite you to rise. And when you've got grit and grace and a few good friends, you will get through it all. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and buckle up. Welcome back to Grit and Grace. It's Pam Rader here with my dear friend.
It's Erin. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, we're so stoked to be with you today. We've been talking about how if you can't look back at yourself and cringe, then you're not growing.
You're not
And
doing it right.
And I have many cringe-worthy moments in my life. I don't know if you do, Erin. You got some
Oh my
cringe-worthy ones?
gosh. It's not even funny how many
Right?
cringe moments.
Even from 2 weeks ago, I probably have some cringe-worthy moments for sure. And that led us to a conversation about shame and how we can very easily fall into shame over who we used to be, shame over things we've done, shame over things that we perceive as deficits in ourselves. But shame is shitty. Shame
Yes.
it's crippling. It
It's also
correlates with
super
higher.
insidious.
Yeah, it's insidious, and
You don't even know it's there sometimes.
it correlates with high depression, anxiety, inflammation, higher cortisol. Oh my God, it's it sets your whole body's threat alarms up, and then you're living in kind of fight or flight. Someone might find out that I'm not enough or I have this shameful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to talk about the remedy for shame. What's the remedy, Erin? What's the thing that's going to cure everybody? And then they don't have to
Own it
listen to
and
us anymore.
own it and name it. Name it,
Name
de-shame
it.
it, own it. Be in
Yeah.
it. Accept it
Be
as
in
part
it.
of everything about you. Accept it as part of how you feel.
I'm going to say, let's go one step further and even love that part of you.
Yes.
Love that cringy little part of you.
Because in the end, it's just who you wanted to be, or you did something that was no wonder. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that I've learned. A lot of the shameful things that I've done or felt ashamed about, they have been catalysts for me to learn how I don't want to behave in the world. And they have also been catalysts for me having more empathy for other people because I can see how all of us are one. I had a friend who is an RCMP officer, and he said to me, Pam, we think we're so high and mighty because we live these decent lives and that criminals that go to jail are different kind of people. And he said, we are all one hair's breadth and one bad decision away from becoming somebody else. And
Shadow.
some of the shameful things that I've done in my life have reminded me that none of us escape from that. We all have the capacity to do some really awful things, and we all have the capacity to heal and grow and love. And whatever we give our attention to is what grows. So if we're spending an inordinate amount of time stuffing down shame, trying to hide it, trying to prevent other people from finding out about it, the shame is what grows within us, and it'll ultimately destroy us.
Absolutely. So for me, it shows me immediately what I value most. And that's
Ooh,
how I like
yeah.
to tip shame on its head. It's like, okay, I just went through this really cringy experience where I'm feeling about it and my whole body is reacting to it. And it's like, no, I can just flip it on its head and say to myself, okay, what does this mean I value?
So
And
so
that's one of
give
the
an
ways.
example of that.
Well, I went on a date recently a few months ago. And I set up the date and I was really excited for it. And I coordinated that my date would pick me up, which I really liked because
Mhm.
I'm trying to lean into my feminine energy. And so my sister was here from Switzerland, and so I went to visit her before the date, and I had a couple of hits of a joint,
Mhm.
and I ended up getting a little bit high on my date for
Yeah.
my date.
Yeah.
So I go home to get ready, and all of a sudden it hits me that there's a man coming to my new house. And the reason that I felt shame is because my ex and I are sharing an apartment so that our sons can stay in the house they grew up in.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sharing an extra, like, the other apartment with my ex, and some people might think that that's a little bit weird. And so it just hit me that suddenly some new eyes were going to be in my
Right.
apartment seeing how I
Right.
live.
And now you're all like Jeff Spicoli.
And now I'm high as balls. What was I thinking? And so, exactly what I thought would happen. He came in here, he came to pick me up, he came in here and he was all judgy, like, "Well, when are your kids gonna be ready for you to fully split? And there's 2 rooms." And, like, he just made a couple comments,
Yeah.
and I felt awful after.
Uh-huh.
And then, I just said to myself, like, "Okay, what does this mean I value? Okay, it means I value where I live." And so what I got to was that I wanna move to Sylvan Lake
Uh-huh.
because of that, and that I want to have some separate living spaces from my ex.
Can
Great.
I just give you something else though? What caused the shame was not that you valued where you lived. What caused the shame was that you value other people's perceptions of how you live. Like it's
Yeah.
showing you that that's a misaligned value, that that's like running the show. You wouldn't choose that as a value, but that's if you didn't have that running the show, like the I care what other people think of me, that wouldn't have even crossed your mind.
Well, and it was really deep in there, right? And so I think the
Mhm.
weed just, like, brought it out.
Mhm.
And after that experience, I can honestly say that I don't care.
Yeah.
So somehow it processed it and it metabolized it out.
Yeah. Bringing it to the surface, speaking, naming it, acknowledging it. What we embrace dissolves and what we resist
Yes.
persists, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I just had I had a realization recently that I was a little bit feeling shame around too because I'm dating a very masculine man and and it's fairly soon out of my marriage, like maybe only 8.5 months or something I'm out of my marriage. And I had some people make some comments about, when people get into things too soon, it's usually just rebound and it's this and it's that. And it started triggering me thinking about that. And I was like, oh, like what am I just seeking comfort? Am I just, all of that? And then I really thought about it and I started to feel kind of ashamed that I let my marriage go on as long as I did the way that it was. Because as my husband went into his feminine energy and avoided and all of that, my response was to dominate, manipulate, control. I could talk circles around him, basically get whatever I wanted done. And he would just shut down. And I thought, yes, he did all of these things that were inappropriate in a marriage, but that was my part. That was my part. And I felt ashamed of it. And as I was having this conversation with these people, I felt embarrassed about that. So I spoke it and I said, I dominated, I manipulated, I controlled. I knew I could. I never felt good about it, but I did that. And then I said, I consciously chose this partner that I have because I cannot dominate this man. I cannot manipulate him. He sees right through me and he creates the container for me to become the woman that I want to become. And as soon as I said it out loud, all of it solidified. And it was like, yes, this is exactly what's been happening. But I had to acknowledge that I cringed at who I was in the marriage before. And then I can see that. I can see what was present. And if I know better, I can do better and I can choose more intentionally. So,
And you attracted in a man that has that, he is the cliff and he's steady, strong in there and he's not gonna, like, waver against your energy.
yeah, for
It's
sure. For
beautiful.
sure. Yeah, he's a mountain.
Yeah.
In all the ways. Yeah. And and so that was, that was kind of cringy for me to look back and actually admit that because to be honest, in public, I always spoke highly of my ex-husband.
Yeah, you
You
did.
know, I always said he was wonderful and I didn't perceive myself as someone who dominated. But once I saw that was doing that, I felt really embarrassed. I was like, how do I know so much and I'm still doing that? Well, why do we still do that? Survival, desperation,
Our instinct.
instinct. We feel less than. That's the human experience.
Again, it's just, like, part of growing, really. It's like we don't know what we know until we know it,
Yeah.
until we
Yeah.
see it.
So I want to share a really funny story, something that's like super cringy.
Oh, I can't wait.
One of my survival strategies, like growing up and all of that was I kind of became a know-it-all, and I mean, maybe I still am, I don't know, but I kind of became a know-it-all, and it was really important as a source of external validation. I valued external validation, and one of the ways that I could get it was from being smart and being able to solve problems. And so that was like a strategy that I had. So many years ago, I was working for a medical lab. I was a phlebotomist. I used to take blood. And someone comes running in off the street and says, "Does anyone have first aid here? A woman just fell and she needs first aid. I think she broke her hip." And I had literally just finished my 15th first aid course that weekend for my yoga and fitness and stuff. And so I've got my white lab coat on and I'm like, I know first aid. And I have my hand up and I get my head up and everyone else is kind of like, oh, okay, go. So I go walking out there and I like march out and I point to this guy and I'm like, you in the white shirt, call 911 and report back to me because that's what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
And he goes, "Ma'am, I am 911. It was the ambulance driver."
Well, you look very professional, so
Oh my God. And I was so embarrassed, like
I
so
am not.
embarrassed. But it was, again, it led me to kind of that, what do I value? And it was like, sure, I value helping people for sure. I do. And I value being of service and all of that. But also I was like, oh, there's this, the flip side, the dark side, the shadow side of what I value is I need to be seen as capable. I need to be seen as um, in charge. I need to be seen as the one. And so there's really revelatory things when we sort of look at what we're ashamed of.
I don't know that there's anything wrong with having the desire to be in the spotlight. I think a lot of good can come from that, and that's not everybody doesn't feel that way. Not everybody wants to be in the spotlight. So I
Mhm,
think there's a light and a dark to it. And
mhm,
I know I've definitely needed validation 100%. I mean, when I had my business, I was like seeking it from you even
mhm,
5
mhm,
years ago or whatever.
mhm.
It's like, oh my god.
It's so funny, right? I think
Yeah.
I remember actually when you came to visit in the early summer and you said, "It's weird for me to bring this to you because you're my teacher." And I was like, "Fuck that. What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
please don't do that. I don't wanna do that, you know? Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
go
know.
into those patterns. Now,
Yeah.
one of the places where I know a lot of people feel shame is around, like, parenting
My
and,
god.
like, our parenting,
That is
maybe
sick.
fails.
Yeah,
I got
that
a
is
bunch.
sick. Yeah. One of the things that is really present for me is taking on the emotional well-being of my children because 'cause I'm supposed to know better now, right?
Oh,
Oh, I've done all this spiritual work. I'm in a place in my life where I'm pretty well balanced, and I've done 15 years of spirituality, and
mhm,
then I become a mom, and it just
right?
blows my head off. Like, my son's well-being is in my hands completely, like, no. No, he has
No.
his own journey too.
Yeah, and I think we have this fear, like, especially when it comes to parenting, there's a couple of specific things. Sometimes we're ashamed when we don't know what to do, and then we
Yes.
go into reaction. And then other times, I know for me, a lot of my parenting, with my oldest son, Nick, in particular, I was so young when I had him. I was 22. I didn't know much. And I was very invested again in that external validation, and I wanted people to think I was a good parent. So if he misbehaved, I was reacting to other people's perception of me as a parent
Mhm,
more so than actually just looking at the behavior that was a
mhm.
thing. And it took me until he was about 16 and in full addiction to recognize that I had to give that up. Like that I could not give a shit what other people think about how I'm gonna parent my kid at
Yep.
this point. It is about him and me doing the best I can for him, with him, and for me, and I don't owe anybody an apology. But I parented for years, like, I remember one time going through Costco, and Nicholas and Brandon were in the shopping cart, and Nick is 6 years older than Brandon, so he was like on the end of the shopping cart pushing, and Brandon was inside, like maybe 6, and, they were fighting, and it was incessant. I mean, you have boys, it was
Oh, yeah.
incessant, and I looked around and I didn't think I saw anybody coming, and I was like, "If you don't stop it right now, I'm gonna smack your heads together like a couple of cantaloupes." And then I just noticed these 2, like, big biker gentlemen walking by, and I was like, "And those 2 gentlemen will watch, and they will not say one fucking word." And and these men stop, and they stand, and they stare at me, they're like, "Yeah, you okay, mama?" I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah,
That's a good
I'm
man right
good."
there.
Lost my mind, but I was so embarrassed that I lost my mind, but mostly I was embarrassed about how my kids were behaving because if I'm really honest, I was afraid of people thinking I wasn't a good parent because my
Mhm,
kids were behaving that way.
mhm.
Because they could behave that way at home and I could completely ignore them. It'd be fine.
Yeah, in public. In public is oh my gosh, like, so, you know how you pick your battles with your kids?
Mhm,
Especially with I'm sure it's the same with girls, but with boys, like, you have to pick your battles. So I think Hayes was, like, 3 or 4, and he just insisted on taking the grocery cart. And so he was pushing it around, no big deal, no big deal. Well, I turned for 1 second and he takes off with the grocery cart down the aisle
mhm,
and rams into a display. The display comes toppling down and I was like, "Oh my god." And I yelled at him because I
mhm.
thought that's what I should do. And in reality, I'm the one that let him take the shopping cart. And I mean, who's not going to run and try to ram a shopping cart? Well, maybe anyone except Hayeswood.
Yeah, yeah.
So, of course, I yelled at him, and I'm trying to, like, pick it up and contain the mess because of the manager's there and the meat guy's over there, and then there's people, poo-pooing me from the other aisle, and it's just like, "Oh my god."
Oh,
Yeah, it's quite the thing, parenting, and I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah. I think that this is a really good, like, it happens with parenting. It happens with like looking for validation, all those things. There's a lot of shame that is born from us trying to manage other people's perceptions of us.
Oh, yes.
And so, in order to de shame any of that, we just have to start being real because you have to realize everyone else is concerned about what we think about them. And if we all just shared how we really are, then no one would be holding these impossible standards. And, I talked to a mom the other day. I can't even remember who I was talking to, but I was telling she was having a really hard time with her little child. And I said, I have memories of me being a single mom with Nick when he was 3 and sitting outside of his bedroom door crying, holding the doorknob so he can't get out, and he's banging on the other side of the door, screaming and crying and kicking because
Oh, I've done
he's
that.
just being awful, and I'm like, "This is to save your life. Stay in there.
There's no telling what I'm capable
There
of.
is no telling what I'm capable of right now. Stay in
Yes.
there." And
Yes.
I had horrible shame about that, but you know what? When this woman was telling me her story, and I shared that with her, it de-shamed both of us because
Oh.
she realized, like, "Oh my god, I'm not the only one. I'm doing the best I can." We all have moments. We all have meltdowns. We all have things we are not proud of,
I love de-shaming other moms in public.
right?
And it can be something really simple like, "You're doing great, mama." Just
Yeah,
like that. I have 2 of
totally.
my own that.
Yes.
And it's just a quick little acknowledgement that I see you and you're doing great and just keep going. Don't worry about it, keep going. I
Yes.
love doing that. It's
I do it all the time.
so
In fact,
special.
a little boy ran into me in the grocery store the other day and his dad was he's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I raised 4 of them. It's totally fine. You're doing all right."
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
just
It
yeah,
does you don't have to make it a big thing, you just keep walking, but
totally,
yes.
totally. Now,
Mhm.
there's some other aspects of shame. I mean, there's this, you know, feeling like we have deficits that maybe these things come from having been made fun of when we were young. If you're called a geek or bullied or made fun of for not reading well or
Fat.
for a physical appearance, like our bodies, like there are so many things where shame is deep seated because of childhood experiences. So, what would you suggest if we're talking about like the kind of shame that was planted, not necessarily because of who we are, but just like experiences we had?
Well, for me, this is inner child work. And I
Mm,
always like to preface this by saying, like, inner child work is not so that the inner child can start taking the steering wheel of your life. But in those moments when I was a kid and I had a high, overwhelming emotional reaction to something that happened to me, it was almost like there was like it's time stops right there. So for me, going back to those moments and allowing my inner child to finish what she really wanted to say and do and feel is a really powerful practice for me because there's healing in that. And
mhm,
I can understand myself so much better in those moments. Like, oh, that was just little Erin desperately wanting someone to choose me and to
mhm,
just love me for no reason other than that
mhm,
I'm lovable. And that for me, that deshames anything that happens like that in my adult life. It
mm.
deshames it. It's like, "Oh, that's just little Aaron back then that just needed or wanted, desired someone to just have her back." So for me, this is inner child work. That's
Yeah.
how I kind of tackle
Well,
it.
and then there's this thing called timelining that I share with some of my clients and in different programs that I run where you can kind of go back to it and say, if you could give yourself anything in that moment, what would that thing be? And I encourage people to have fun with it. If, and I think about in high school, I had my very first boyfriend. I was only 15 and he was super abusive, like manipulative, would like physically harm me. And I didn't know enough to speak up. And I thought if I did speak up, my dad would go to jail. So I was like, all the things. And so that went on for many months. But I look back and I had the opportunity to work with some great coaches and a coach gave this exercise to me and said, what would you give yourself? And I said, well, maybe a voice that I would have told my dad. And she's like, way more fun than that. Give yourself a way hotter, nicer boyfriend who drives a better car and like go back. And then I started like laughing and lightening the memory, the image, and
Mm,
it shifted the whole experience for me. It's like the me now can go back and say, hey, here's what I would give you, and you deserved all of that.
yeah.
And so it doesn't always have to be this like inner child work is so important. And sometimes it can be light and sometimes it
Yeah.
can be fun. Yeah.
I have
So
visions of bopping this girl that used to like she bullied me. Like I was in grade 5 and 6. So I was, 10, 11, 12, and so being called a geek all the time, walking by and just getting that bombed at you, that's hard, right? I
mhm.
have visions of sometimes of myself taking my lollipop, those bigger ones that are really hard and just cranking her on the and it's like, okay, that's a little violent. So, but that makes me feel good too. Cause it gives my little girl like just a little bit of
It's like we go to
mm.
war for them. It's like the me now gets to go to war for the me then
Yes.
and just like give them the backup that they wish they had.
And I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Now, some of the things that people also feel shame about, like decisions that we've made in our lives. I can think of some pretty shady stuff that I've done over the years.
Yeah.
Like
Me too.
when I was, starting as a teenager, I would lie and like do typical teenage stuff, sneak out of the house, smoke, drink, all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. Okay, fine, whatever. But I have been on both sides of infidelity. In two of my marriages, I was unfaithful. My last marriage, my ex-husband was unfaithful. And there are decisions that lead up to that we justify, rationalize, and defend. And I used to have a lot of shame about those things. And I felt like I deserved, in fact, when my husband left recently, I was like, ooh, I must have had that coming because I've done that to somebody else? And then I thought, what the heck are you even thinking about? Like that's not really how it works. And it was just that I hadn't made peace with it yet and I was bracing for that for a long time. And what I can honestly say is I was never modeled how to take a breakdown in a marriage and make repair. What I was modeled was passive aggressive behavior. Sweep it
Yeah.
under the rug, make comments to other people, and then pout until you get what you want. So I didn't have a reference for anything else. So when things got really bad, then it was like I needed to have someone understand me, someone to make me feel safe. that sort of thing. And again, not rationalizing, justifying, or defending being unfaithful in a relationship. But I can look back and say, of course, and no wonder. I didn't have another tool in my belt. And infidelity is the ultimate passive aggressive move. And so, what it's done for me, though, is as a coach, I've had multiple people in my office that are so ashamed about having had extramarital affairs or cheated on a partner or whatever. And I can understand why that happens and help them de-shame that in themselves and get back on a path where they have integrity within themselves and the courage to have difficult conversations, the courage to leave if they need to leave. But to see that that was just like when we don't have the tools or the skills, and I'm not condoning it at all. I'm just saying we are all one decision away from being somebody we never thought we'd be.
Yeah, repair maintenance is like, if I had good repair maintenance, I might still be in my relationship.
Mhm.
And I'm learning how to do that now.
Mhm.
So I love that you were able to de-shame it that way, and it's so powerful that you can help other people de-shame. I mean, that's
Well,
that in
and it becomes a
itself.
powerful tool because when they come and sit in my office and say, "I have to tell you something," and it's so shameful and everything else, I'm like, "I've been there.
Yeah, I can
I have
barely
done
tell you.
exactly that, and I understand why it happens, and I don't think I'm a terrible person. I feel horrible that I hurt someone, but I also know the lessons I learned, and I really decided, like, who I did not wanna be. And after witnessing hurting my second husband, I was like, I could never do that to another human being again. Like, there's just, it's not in my DNA. I could not. But not having had that experience, I would have been a judgmental asshole to anybody else and just said, that's just the way it is. You just are faithful and you just, blah, 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 And now I understand, like, nothing happens in a vacuum. There's multiple
Funny how that
circumstances
works.
leading up to everything. Even people who commit crimes, like, they feel desperate
Mhm.
often.
Yep.
Even, my house got broken into a few years back and all my jewelry stolen and my laptop and everything. It was highly inconvenient and quite disconcerting. And I honestly just thought I would have been really angry. But my son was full blown in addiction at the time. And I knew that he was on the streets and probably committing crimes just like that at times. And
Mhm.
so I just said a little prayer. I hope whoever took it needs it more than me and that they get what they need from it.
Mm.
And had I not had a son in addiction, I don't think I I would have shamed those people. They're
Yeah.
just also doing the best they can with what they have.
Yeah, our experiences really shape us. So I have a question for you. So you're an individual who's done a lot of spiritual work,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Do you think that the amount of work we do before this moment like can affect that? Or do you think that someone who maybe hasn't done as much work as us can have a perspective shift in an instant and
Yeah.
find that compassion within themselves? What do you think?
Well, there's 2 ways that it can happen, and for us doing all of this work, it's, sure you have moments when it's like someone flicks a light switch on and something's illuminated and you can't unsee it. But
Mhm.
most often, we're muddling through the dark and it's like someone slowly turning a dimmer switch on, or you're walking a dark path at night with a flashlight, and then the sun starts to rise and you can see a little bit more down the path. And it's sort of like that. Like we haven't arrived. I definitely think that for me, having done a lot of, we can call it spiritual work or personal development or
Personal
all
development, yeah.
just self-awareness, I can see my patterns very quickly.
Mm.
And that might be that's a skill that has been practiced and mastered. So I get to things more quickly. But that being said, other people don't have to see their patterns. When I share my stories of things that I've been ashamed about and how I've transformed that in my life, other people see themselves in that and they immediately recognize the patterns. And sometimes it's like that light switch turns on and
Yes.
they can't unsee it. And so, this is why I think it's really important for those of us who are on the path and doing this work to share our stories, especially the cringy ones, not as trauma dumping. That's a different fucking thing. Don't even get me
Mhm.
started on that. But as service to help other people see their own humanity. to help
I
other
think
people forgive themselves and see that there's possibility on the other side. I've had so many people say to me, and I'm sure you too, like, whoa, you're walking through this divorce with so much grace. And I'm like, well, you don't see me in the background being like, that stupid motherfucker. Like,
yeah, calling Pam, "Pam, I feel so anxious."
totally. Like, we're doing those things in the background too. But,
Yes.
generally speaking, we are walking through with a certain amount of grace and
Mhm.
awareness. But sharing the places where we don't is helpful to other people because they see themselves in it. They don't think they're failing.
Yes, and there's an acceptance. De-shame right there, boom,
How
de-shaming.
much do you think comparison or this idea that there is an ideal or an arrival point for us is actually like a big perpetuator of shame?
Oh, I think it's huge actually. Comparison is well, we always talk about it as being the thief of joy for one, and it is like we're programmed to do that. For me, it comes from a place of scarcity, a place of lack, thinking that I'm not as good as somebody else in the room or my situation as compared to someone else. And thankfully, the more I do this work, it's kind of like a byproduct that comparing and even jealousy, which is kind of the same type of thing, is going away. Like it's dissipating as I do this work and as I heal more within myself. So I think comparison is absolutely a perpetuator of shame. I mean, it can become crippling.
Yeah. And so one of the biggest, people ask, what can I do to let go of shame? And I often say it's not what you do, it's what you need to stop doing. Stop comparing yourself. Stop striving. Stop striving to be something other than you are to
Mm.
belong.
And that's that full acceptance of who we are, all parts of us.
I have another really funny story that, again, it was around external validation, and that can show up in many ways. But when I first married, I was first with my second husband, Rob. He's Italian, and his boys are Italian, and so obviously his Italian parents come to visit. And I thought it would be really fun to make pasta for my Italian mother-in-law. Like, how stupid is that, right? Like that actually makes me cringe right now. I'm
Yeah,
actually
right
having a
there.
flush of embarrassment
I
right now.
have an Italian brother-in-law,
Yeah,
Italian, full on. So I know what you
yeah.
I wouldn't make him pasta.
Like, what the actual fuck was I thinking?
I'll
Anyways,
make
I
him a
was young.
barbecue,
I think I was like
a
26 or something
smoky.
like that. Yeah. So, anyways, I make linguine and clams. I don't even ask her if she likes seafood or anything. And I mean, the linguine and clams was good, but I probably overcooked the pasta, whatever. Anyways, we're sitting at dinner and she's eating it. And then I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And she doesn't say anything. And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of squeezing Rob's leg and I've got a fork in my hand. And I'm like, I've been brought up that you say, thank you. That was delicious, even if you don't like it. Right.
Yes,
And
even if you don't like it. Yep.
yeah, people pleasing. And so she doesn't say anything. And so I look at her and I go, well, did you like the pasta? And she looks at me like stone cold and she goes, Pamela is no my favorite. And I was like, honest to God, I was going to stab her neck with my fork. I
You
felt so
were
like, I was like so
astounded.
offended because I had never had that feedback because we were taught to be people pleasers and everyone will blow smoke up your ass and tell you it's fabulous, even if it's not. So I'd never had any experience with that. So then I said to her, okay, so this is what I said. Everybody buckle up. This is the most embarrassing moment of my life to share this. I said, my mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, you shouldn't say anything at all. I said that to my future mother-in-law.
My
And
gosh.
again, she's super Italian, unmoved. And she goes, well, Pamela, if I tell you I like, you're going to make a gang.
Yeah. That's so much grace right there, really.
Taught me such a valuable lesson. Like, it was just
Yes.
feedback, and I didn't but I was so needing her to tell me that I was good, you know?
Mhm.
And in that moment, that's what I valued, and then I look back at who says that to their mother-in-law? Oh my god.
My mom says.
My mom said, "If you don't." Oh my god.
I think this is a really interesting flip side to this conversation is when you're faced with someone that does not validate all of those old needings to be validated in you, and
Mhm.
you're standing across from someone who is not doing that. And it can be really destabilizing and disconcerting. And that's where if I don't have enough awareness, then I can go into my victimhood, make it their problem, make it their fault. Like,
Oh, she's so
you,
rude and she didn't, and
yeah,
like, I look back and I'm like, "She taught me the most valuable lesson of my life." Because you
yes.
know what, Erin? I looked back and I remembered a time when I was at my grandma's house and she made these baked beans. I did not like the baked
Mm,
beans
uh-huh.
at all. I still don't like them to this day. And they got passed around and I put them on my plate and I said, "These are delicious, grandma. Thank you very much." And blah, blah, blah. And then the seconds come around and she puts a second spoon on my plate and I was like, "Ugh." But I said, "Thank you. They're so good." So then 2 weeks later, my mom makes them at home. And I was like, "Mom, I don't like these." And she said, "Well, I made them for you because you said how much you like them at your
You
grandma's
just
house."
love them. You're like,
So
I was pretending.
Nella, my mother-in-law, taught me the value of just telling the truth, giving
Yes.
feedback, receiving feedback, and not being so caught up in that need for validation. And I still kind of stand by most of our shame comes from comparison and us needing other people to think something about us. Because if we didn't have that, what is there to be ashamed about?
I wouldn't even equate.
No, it wouldn't compute that there was anything wrong.
There's anything wrong.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, I could be ashamed of the fact that you have way better dance moves than me.
But you're not because you accept fully that you're Marjorie.
But yeah, oh my god, I got sent a video on Instagram of this woman from the '80s in her
I
slacks
wish we could
dancing.
show
Everyone's
the
seen it,
video so everyone would understand.
right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's like and it's hilariously awful, but also very reminiscent of how Erin has actually seen me dance.
Mhm. Yes.
And, early on in my yoga career, I decided that shift power yoga would be a place where everyone can dance like that. And so we have dance parties in our teacher
However they
trainings.
are, yes.
And the only rule is that you can't look good.
I mean, I tried. I
Yeah.
tried. And then I was like, "I can't do this anymore. This is not who I am." So then I started busting out, the moves.
The moves, the good moves. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. What's another place where people might have kind of hidden shame, Erin, that would be helpful for them to pull up? You know, I think of things like women and not just women, but people with their finances. What are some
Yep.
other things?
Yes. I mean, I'm toying around with the idea that perhaps I'm like on the kind of the verge of potentially ADHD and maybe not. Maybe I've just had a heightened nervous system for a long time. So I'm not really sure, but like I'm thinking of like those types of labels, right? Or learning disabilities, maybe. Like I guess even dyslexia, right? But
Hmm.
it's like if you can just funnel those properly, there's no shame. But another one for me is if I don't know, if I don't have the answer, that's
Yeah.
another one that sometimes gets me.
Yeah, we think we should know. And I have
Yes.
learned in the past few years that one of the greatest things that I can say is, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because then
I
it
like
opens it
coming
up
from there.
that I can learn, but I'm also creating space for other people, like, it's okay not to know.
Yes. I love teaching my son that I don't know is a
Mhm,
really powerful place to come from. That's one of the things that I feel like I'm doing right as a
mhm.
parent.
Oh, you're doing lots of things right.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I
And
know.
you know what? Despite us, they're gonna be fine.
Yes, I know. Yeah, he's gonna be just fine. Yes.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's just talk about Brené Brown calls it shame resilience, right? And she
She talks
says
a lot about shame.
that when you have shame, so if you think about, "Oh my god, I was in the store and I was so embarrassed." Embarrassed about what? Why? And what's really going on there? Name it.
Hmm.
It's like, "Oh, something that feels like not enough in me is coming up right now."
Or I'm
And then you've gotta
comparing, yes.
have number 2, like a reality check, some critical awareness, right? Like, what what stories am I defending right now? What, uh, rules and expectations am I buying into? Because it's all made up, you guys.
Are they
It's
even
all made
true?
up. Yeah, are they even true that your kid should behave this way or, you know, you shouldn't say such and such to so and so? All of those things are made up.
Yes.
And then tell somebody. I've talked about this so often, like, tell someone. You don't have to go announce it on a podcast like us. Like, geez,
Yeah, you don't have to do
we
that.
might actually have something wrong with us, but
But
go
I
tell
tell
somebody
you,
who's not gonna shame you, who's gonna
you know?
listen.
Yeah. Tell a trusted friend.
And then take the power back by owning the narrative. Most often shame is caused by us being afraid that someone else will find out about what we've done. But if we share the story, if we own it and we speak about it and we shine light on it, what is there for anyone to find out? There's no power. No one has power over you.
And just do it with authority, like, "This is just part of my story."
I wrote a book that has so many cringy things about it, me in it. And I was like, I'm going to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. If I'm going to do this. And I felt like a 10,000-pound weight got lifted off me because there's nothing anybody can say about me that
You
I
cannot be
haven't
hurt.
shared or that I wouldn't share.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
You can't be
Um,
hurt.
and then do you have anything else to add to that? What would be helpful if people are experiencing shame?
No, I don't actually. I think that that is well, I feel like that just gives the self-compassion, right? And
Mhm,
being able to practice self-compassion
mhm,
is a really, really important step. And so it's
mhm.
like, is there something you can do daily to create that compassion for yourself? But all of that is really just laying the foundation for self-compassion.
Yeah, I think you're right. Self-compassion is the key. But self-compassion is not it's not just about taking ourselves off the hook. It's about looking at the whole picture. What were the things that led up to me making that decision or hiding this or whatever? Can I have compassion for the age I was when I decided it was not okay to have dyslexia or the age I was when I decided that I wasn't pretty enough or whatever. We can have compassion for those versions of ourselves and then from our higher selves right now say, what is most important to me? What do I really value? And then what's the action that aligns with that?
I love it.
So there's no shame that is worth keeping. Shame is heavy, it's hard, it's gritty. And if you want to transmute the grit of shame into the grace that it can be in terms of helping others feel more human and like they belong, then learn to share your stories. So if you like the show, please share the show. If you have comments, we love to hear your comments. If you want to come and work with either me or Erin, check out our links in the show notes. And please put on your calendars April 17th. We are at the Grit and Grace retreat in the Caribou country of BC with our
Oh, yeah.
favorite cowboy, and it's going to be off the chain. So
Amazing.
until next time, we wish you that you turn all of life's grit into the most beautiful grace.
Thanks, everybody.